Rev up your engines!
Melissa McLean says, what's the most dependable SUV on the market today to buy brand new? Well, I'd have to say the Toyota Highlander. Those things can run. I got a customer that's got 500,000 miles on it. It's still got the original engine and transmission. I had to put an air conditioning compressor on it and brakes and stuff, but the price and what you're going to get. I mean, the Lexuses are excellent too, but they cost so much money. They're getting astronomical with what they want for those things. And the other stuff, they're fine and flashy when they're new, and then they get old and they cost a fortune, and then they have no resale value, so you get nothing for them. Lane Teague says, 2001 Jeep Cherokee Sport. Run! Don't walk away from that thing. Those are one of the biggest money pit cars. Cherokees, when they had that buyback the lemons and buy back the junker clunkers program where you get rid of your junker and they give you credit for getting another car. That was one of the highest ones that was traded in because of the problems they have as they age. Do not buy a vehicle like that. Now, I mean, if you really got to get one, you can get one dirt cheap and you're going to have it as a toy on the weekend. And the mechanic says, well, it's okay. Go ahead, but don't pay much for it. They're not worth anything. And they're generally ready to have all kinds of problems. Harvestium Daisy says, Scotty 06 Toyota 4Runner. 2009 Honda Accord, both at 150,000 miles for around $8,000. Out of those, you gotta depend what do you really want, because the 4Runner is an excellent vehicle that can run forever, but it's pretty gas hoggy, and you know it's based on a truck chassis and it's a big old SUV. The Honda Accord Coupe is a nice sized coupe. Going to get much better gas mileage than the 4Runner. They're both pretty well made. If you're talking about a Honda Accord Coupe with 150,000 miles for $8,000 and it's got an automatic transmission, no way, I wouldn't pay that. They're not worth it. The transmissions can have problems. In that case, I'd definitely go to the 4Runner. But they're two different type vehicles, so you really got to decide what do you want. You know, it's like saying, do I want a pickup truck or do I want a smart car? Yeah, figure out what you want first, size-wise. Jay Thaxton says, Scotty, I just bought an '07 Toyota Sequoia with 160,000 miles. One owner. What should I look for? Well, you said you just bought it. You should have had a guy like me check it out before you buy it. You don't put the cart before the horse. You're supposed to check it out before you buy it. With that kind of mileage on it, find a guy like me that knows cars. And we charge anywhere from $80 to $100 to fully go over your vehicle. Spend about an hour and a half going over it. Putting our fancy scan tool, road testing it, looking at recorded data, looking at the live data and analyzing it. I can stick my $5,000 scan tool on, I can watch the live data. And I can get so much information from what I know of cars and what that data tells me to see what kind of shape it's actually in. There's efficiency ratings where I can see, okay, a total efficient car, it'll be 1.000. So if the thing now is 0.998, hey, that's still pretty good, you know? But if it's 0.920, then, yeah, it's not as efficient as it used to be. And if it's 0.8 something, I would have said don't even buy the thing. Yeah? There's so much data we can get from those things. Pay a guy to look at it. He can tell you really the truth of what kind of shape it's in. The computers can't lie, and that's a 2007, so it's got all kinds of data that we mechanics can get. I just checked out 2007 the other day for a guy with one. I told him, I said it's got all this nitpicky stuff wrong with it, but it's still a real solid car. Because you're always going to find stuff wrong with something that's 13 years old like that with a fancy scan tool, because it goes into the real nitty-gritty stuff. The airbag sensor not work right one time. I mean, you get all kinds of data, that stuff you're not really going to worry about, but you want to have the good stuff looked at, so pay a mechanic. If you can find somebody like me where you live. Nata says, Scotty, my '01 Honda Accord is a new battery, but it's totally dead. Could it be a bad alternator? Well, it could be a bad alternator too, but if you put a new battery and it's totally dead, that itself has nothing to do with the alternator. If it's completely dead, you turn the key and the idiot lights don't even come on. You're not getting power from the battery to any of the systems. So the first thing you want to do is turn the headlights on. If the headlights don't work, you got a wiring short. Check the positive and the negative cable, follow them back, look for shorts, see where something's loose or corroded. Let's say you turn your headlights on, the headlights come on, but you turn the ignition and nothing happens. Those cars are notorious, the Hondas, for having bad ignition switches. It could be as simple as you need a new ignition switch. There's places like AutoZone will sell you one for like $65 or something. You can easily go in there, unscrew the old one, there's a Phillips head screw, comes up, plug the new one in, and away you go. That's a very common problem. So do all those tests first to see what's working and what isn't, and then go from there. Let's say you mean totally dead, that you turn the key on and the lights come on, but you turn it to start it, nothing happens. In that case, it's a starter. Accords eat up starters. All my customers with Honda Accords lately, I put many starters on them. They seem to be making weaker and weaker starters on those Accords. I have ones that are 3-4 years old. The starters are shot already that I had to replace. Rich says, I need a second opinion. Got an '05 Buick Century with over 150,000 miles. Got a bad windshield seal. I have water inside, but it still runs. Should I try and fix it or get rid of it? Well, it runs. You're going to get absolutely nothing for it. 15-year-old Buick with 150,000 miles. What the heck? Now, unfortunately, to fix a windshield seal leak, the only way to correctly do it is to take the windshield out, clean it all off, reseal, and put it in. And they're almost always going to shatter when you do it. So you'd have to buy another windshield. Because if you just try to put caulk around it or whatever, that never works permanently. I mean, if you want to try, do it on a dry day, take off all that covering that covers the windshield. That's all just cosmetic. Get to where it is and just get some nice polyurethane sealer, make sure it's all dry, put it all around, and pray that it stops the leak. But normally, the only thing that really works is pulling it out and putting it in. Dry the top, see what happens. What the heck? I mean, you're going to get nothing for the vehicle, so you might as well just give it a little try and then drive it. Then if something big breaks, you get rid of it. You would get nothing for it if you sold it anyways. Michael Garrett says, what's a good source for finding the value of used cars? Yeah, that's a real tough one these days. Because, okay, let's take it. When I was young, companies that gave Blue Book values, the big one was Kelly's Blue Book, and it was a guy's last name was Kelly, and he was pretty honest, and he gave good values on it. But ages ago, that company got bought out by a big corporation, and guess what they do? One of their big things is selling used cars. So, of course, they artificially inflate the value of it. It's crap. Those book values are garbage these days. It means absolutely nothing, like I've said many times. It's just total fantasy land. You'd ask a guy like me, ask pros that are in the business, and they'll tell you, cash, this car is worth this much money. Don't listen to the BS, because if they say a car is worth $15,000 and the used car lots are selling it, yeah, they're selling it for 15 grand and they're getting a $500 deposit, and it's going to take 2 or 3 years for them to get monthly payments. That's different than paying cash for a car. Cash, they go for a lot less. I've seen cars that the book value was 15. For cash, they went for 7.5. You know, you got to find somebody who's honest, going to tell you the truth about it, that, you know, fixes cars, and not the guys who are selling you the cars. And unfortunately, all those book things are total BS, because almost all of them are today tied in with people who sell used cars for a living. Sad but true. CR855 says, Scotty, what's your opinion on aluminum as a material for body panels? Well, it's great. It doesn't rust, but it's harder to do body work on them. If guys have to know how to paint them, because painting aluminum is different than painting steel. It's got different properties and stuff. It's totally fine. It makes less weight, so they get better gas mileage. They have higher fuel efficiency. Ford does that on those F-150s, and I believe they lost something like about 800 pounds of weight doing it. The only problem is when they need repair, they're harder to repair. Because, see, a lot of the stuff that's aluminum isn't welded on anymore. It's glued on. A8s and stuff, their aluminum frames aren't welded together. In a lot of places, they're actually glued together with special polyurethane glue, very special glue, and then they're pressed with the giant, 25-ton press that squeezes it all in. It's complex stuff. But if they get in a wreck and broke, nobody knows how to fix them. That's the problem with that. William Battle says, do you like old MGB sports cars? Yeah, I had a friend who was nuts about them, used to ride around. I used to work on a lot of them. And I really liked them back in the day, because I used to work on a lot of them. I made a lot of money working on them. Back in the day, people used to say, why doesn't somebody figure out how to put a Japanese Toyota engine in an MGB sports car, and they'd sell the heck out of them. They're cute cars, they're fun to drive around, but I mean, they were old English knuckle butt cars that had squirrely double carburetors you had to adjust all the time, and they were just kind of cheaply made. They'd wear out. Rarely would they go more than 100,000 miles. Back in the day, they weren't such dependable cars. In the very end, I know when they stopped making them, they had old World War II Air Force bases in a country in England where they had just parked thousands of the things that they couldn't sell. And in the end, they were really junky little cars. They look cute, though. Ricardo Castro says, what's your opinion on a Honda Rebel 500? Those are very dependable little motorcycles. Honda's always made good motorcycles. And that was the Rebel thing that, kind of stylish, little kind of chopperish style that they came out ages ago. And they can run forever. Now, they're not particularly fast fast motorcycles, but if you want a little cruisy thing and you like the style, go right ahead, you know? Me, myself, I always liked a little bit faster motorcycles and that. I owned one of those once. He said, could you see what's wrong? And I drove it around. I said, well, you know, it seems okay. I said, but it's awful slow. You know, there's something wrong with it. He said, no, I don't care about the acceleration. I always ran that way. He was asking about how it handled. And I said, well, it handled okay, but it didn't have much get up and go. But that's how those things are. They're not, I always like driving the fastest bikes out there that have a lot of grunt, that have a lot of torque. The English motorcycles, I had a BSA when it was the fastest production motorcycle in the world. But you're going way back in the 60s. So if I get on something that doesn't go that fast, I think, well, this thing's kind of slow. So, but those Rebels are very nice motorcycles for riding around if you like the style and you're happy with as fast as they are. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.